Hello, everyone.
He did that with a whip of his head.
I did.
Welcome to Struggle City.
Yeah, we're going to be talking Old English because... clickbait, I guess?
Sure. And it's Dave, Missy, and Casey.
And Dave.
I really don't think we need to introduce ourselves anymore.
That's up to you.
I'm just saying.
I think we do.
I stopped a while ago.
You do. I don't think you ever have.
No, I'm usually just yawning or something.
Yeah.
I think we do for one reason and one reason only. Almost every podcast I listen to, they introduce themselves in some form because you don't know where a new listener is picking up.
Fair.
I don't really care about that.
Anyway.
Yeah, so we're doing Old English today. Our previous Old English did really well, and we talked about Hamlet.
Did okay.
You told me it did well.
By the previous book standards, it did okay. But when I say overall, it did very well. In the amount of time that it took to get to the amount of views that it got to.
So it went well. And we're going to talk about Romeo and Juliet today by William Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And we're all very excited about it, which is such a lie, because I actually like this story, and the boys do not.
Because it's trash.
It's the weakest of Shakespeare's stuff.
I disagree.
It's a better comedy than tragedy.
I disagree.
It's comedy because it is tragedy.
Oh my god. Alright, so I have prepared a list of questions for us to answer.
Which they were good questions.
Thank you.
I enjoy your questions.
I didn't come up with all of them on my own.
I knew it.
Yeah,
I
I kind of looked these up. But I did add to them.
Stole.
Okay, so question
Attention,
one.
future teacher hirers. She steals.
Like every other teacher out there.
This bitch steals.
I didn't steal. I just took examples and kind of made them my own.
Stole.
Anyway.
Whatever.
You wouldn't download a teacher, would you?
Download?
So
Sorry.
the topic of love.
Yes.
In the play.
Yes.
You're
stealing what I was going to say.
Well, I'm trying to get us back on track.
Okay.
And you're derailing me.
What do you on track?
Romeo and Juliet, were they really in love?
No.
Okay, here's the thing. So the first question I came up with is about love, because that is obviously one of the main points in the play. And yeah, one of the questions is, do you think that they really loved each other? But then also, what does it mean to love somebody? How does love change over time? Because it does. So therefore, there has to be like multiple levels of love.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, there's platonic, there's erotic love,
there's eros,
Yeah.
which is family love.
Yeah.
There you go. You don't know what that is.
What love?
Yeah.
I'm kidding to a bit.
I'll take a shot for that.
We're a little too up north for family love.
Oh my god. But yeah, so so do you think that they were really in love? I say yes, and the boys say no.
It's erotic love at best. They're just dumb, horny teenagers.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's more of a lust than a love.
Romeo is just more about slapping them cheeks.
Yeah, actually, good point. Because right before he even knew she even existed, he was interested in another girl.
Yeah.
That had no interest in him.
Yeah.
And then he heard about Juliet. He was like, "Ooh, easy target."
He's a target.
Yeah.
Yeah. He switched immediately.
Easy target because he's forbidden fruit. Mm-hmm. And y'all bitches love forbidden fruit.
I hate fruit. It's just true. I really hate fruit.
All right, so it's forbidden pasta.
Ooh, I'll take that. Forbidden fries.
Fuck, I hate pasta.
Really?
Quick side street.
We're not even 5 minutes in.
Quick side street. My mother makes pasta sauce so awful over the last 30 years that I have such an aversion to pasta.
That sucks, man. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Anyway.
side street over.
So then, back on track. So then, do you think love at first sight exists?
No.
Okay.
You can't love somebody that you don't know.
Okay. Dave?
Maybe.
Okay. So I am also kind of on maybe. I think it's more like lust at first sight.
Yeah.
I don't like you said, you can't love someone at first sight, but you also can't really love them if you don't know them.
100%.
So you can say that for celebrities, though. Like, people be like, "Oh, I love Halsey," for example.
That's right. Yeah, that's why it's just a crush.
Right.
And that's just a thing that'll never get any deeper than a crush, unless you're a crazy person.
Well.
And then you try to shoot the president to impress your crush.
Well, I mean. I don't do that idea.
Or you both commit joint suicide.
That's romantic.
That is not romantic!
Alright, so let's just segue into the next question.
Okay.
How is that romantic?
Well, wait, hang on a second, though. Because you said that Romeo and Juliet were just horny teenagers, right?
Just about slapping them cheeks.
Okay. But you also said, you agreed with me when I said that there are multiple layers of love. And multiple levels, so to speak. So why is it that maybe their level of slapping them cheeks, okay, is just at, like, the bottom?
It's just eros. Yeah. It's just erotic.
So why is that not their own version of love?
There's nothing to it.
But they know each other. They like each other.
It's very physical.
It is very
it's physical. And like I said, at best, it's just because the other is forbidden fruit.
But I don't think that would be enough reason for them to kill themselves unless there was more to it.
It's not. But again, they're stupid, horny teenagers.
They were young. I'll give you that.
And teenagers do stupid things.
And honestly, this was... when was this written?
I don't know.
Like 1200s?
No. Shakespeare was 1500.
15 to 1600s. Something like that.
So yeah, life expectancy back then was like 30, 40.
Yeah.
They would have been dead anyway. So.
I mean,
Another 20 years, maybe.
I'm fucking tired.
So...
But I want to add on to that, because a lot of the poems that he recites outside of Juliet's window are all very superficially based. They're all like, yo, you're hot as the sun.
Right.
You're so fucking hot, I can't even look at you. It's like, alright, come on, Romeo, calm the fuck down. Put it in your pants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of just how boys are when they're teenagers. So yeah, I do agree with you at that point, but at the same time, I do think it was love. But their own version of it. Like, our versions of love are 10 times what theirs was, because we've all experienced real love.
Right.
But to them, that was their real love.
Sure.
So double suicide, romantic. I say yes.
It's not.
Okay.
If anything, it's an example of how immature they were at the time.
Right.
And also how immature the relationship was.
It was a very immature relationship. They had only known each other for what, like a week?
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all it was. So if you were to hear that, like, two people in love, like, if this happened, like, in our community, would you think the same thing?
No, I would think the same thing. It would just be, why? You could not have been that happy if this was your solution.
Yeah,
Okay.
I very much believe in this idea of, if you love someone enough, you'd keep on living in order to carry on their memory.
And also, like, you would check to see if they're still fucking breathing.
I'll give you that, yeah.
Like,
you should make sure they're dead.
I mean, Romeo's
all you have to do is just finger under the nose.
Also, Romeo is definitely full of himself enough that he definitely carries a mirror around with him.
Yeah.
Could have done a mirror check.
No, not even. Phone.
Oh.
Well,
There's
if
no
we're talking about...
Well, like, if you're talking about today.
Okay.
Just hold
Yeah.
the phone under. Oh, you
if
fog
it
the
fogs
screen.
up, okay, you're still alive. I'll wait.
I'll wait.
And also, just, like, check the pulse.
Yeah, no, I agree. But, like, the funeral was already held.
Yeah.
And he, like, you wouldn't think then to check for anything. You know, like, he didn't get the letter saying, hey,
Yeah.
this is all a trick. And...
So, like, they went through all the trouble of a funeral. Somebody should have checked.
Yeah.
It's not like she's eating fucking fugu. Like, the nerve poison that slows your pulse down.
But Friar Lawrence was in charge of the funeral, right?
You're right, but that's you're asking a religious person to do something rational.
Right.
You're asking somebody with a built-in mental illness to do something rational.
Damn. But see, that was actually another point
What?
that I wanted to make.
Nothing.
Okay. So, you're saying that it's not romantic, but if you tie the idea of religion to it. So, let's just say Joe and I were both Catholic. And we couldn't be together for some reason, and we couldn't stand the idea of not being together. And so we were like, okay, like, let's make a suicide pact. and then we'll be together in heaven. So does the idea of religion make it any worse or better?
Your entire plan is a fallacy because you would not be in heaven. Because suicide is a cardinal sin.
Isn't it like the seventh circle or something?
Yeah, you'd get sent to hell right away.
It's like a one-way ticket.
But what if you ask for forgiveness real quick before you die? Because apparently, to the Catholics, though, that's all you have to do is just ask for forgiveness.
You have to ask the right person for forgiveness, and even then, cardinal sin. No.
You have to ask God.
It's technically self-murder.
Yeah.
Self-murder?
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, oh my god, I hate that.
It's a huge no-no.
Okay, but...
Like, your entire plan is...
Oh, well, hold on. I'll back Missy up a little bit on this.
Okay.
In modern times, the Catholic Church is a little bit more accepting of the idea of suicide as not of their own fault exactly. I will say the Catholic Church is a little bit more
Do you
ahead.
mean like assisted suicide? Like for like medical?
No, assisted suicide is completely wrong in their eyes. But a person committing suicide, they are a little bit more forgiving about that.
Right, because back then it was, demons. Now it's, mental illness.
Right. Well,
maybe still demons today. I don't know.
Probably a little bit of both.
yeah. Kind of a
Because
blurred
Catholic
line.
Church.
Well, I think it was romantic, and I understand how toxic it is for me to say that it was romantic.
Mhm.
And it's not a good lesson to teach future generations. So if and when I teach Romeo and Juliet, I'll be sure to not express my opinion on this. But I do think it was romantic. I think the idea of this passionate, intense, quote, love that they had for each other was too involved. They could not physically go on without each other. Like, I can't handle going through the shit that world is going to give me without you by my side to help me fight it. And I think that's romantic. I think it's toxic, but I think it's romantic. Casey's making a face.
I was waiting for you to finish.
No, I see what you're saying. That the intention behind it, although inherently toxic and very damaging to, if the surviving members did not go through with it, they would be carrying that baggage around with them for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just going to affect them; it's going to affect like the galaxy of their family.
Yeah.
Oh, the galaxy. I like that.
I know, it's great.
Okay. I know.
But like overall, it's not healthy.
Yeah, no, it's not healthy.
In the slightest to have. I don't think they ever. Did they ever talk? Well, no, they don't really talk.
No.
They barely talked.
Communication is the key to any relationship.
That's true.
And Shakespeare was ahead of his time on that.
Yeah.
But
for your example, were you talking about them specifically, or like any couple doing that act?
I guess starting with them specifically, but it can move to other ones.
Because I was thinking, like, specifically if it, like, we're still Romeo and Juliet, we're talking about if Romeo had somehow survived, he would have moved on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
real
Like,
quick.
like within, like, the next day, he would have found, like, a new piece of ass.
Real quick.
I kind of agree with that, but
He would have been
Teenage
psychologically
boy.
fucked up, but,
he kind of already was.
Yeah. Because he just, like, murders a dude.
Well, okay, speaking of that
1600s.
then. Speaking of that.
How'd you like that segue?
I did really like it. Who do you blame for Mercutio's death? Himself for provoking Tybalt for stabbing him, or Romeo for getting in the middle of it?
They're all at fault. They're all stupid.
If you had to name one,
Romeo.
you had to crown the king.
Romeo, absolutely.
Yeah?
I don't have an opinion on
Crown-
this.
You don't?
No, I didn't answer this question.
Romeo is the crown fuckhead in this story.
Well, that kind of answers my other question of, between the two main characters, who was more dramatic and emotional and stupid.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because a lot of people will normally say it's the girl is the more emotional one.
No, she was following him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say that 100%. Romeo has been thinking with his dick this entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He that is his proverbial sword.
Yeah, I think he was definitely... I think he was at fault to start with Mercutio's death, but Tybalt was the one who stabbed him. Like, Tybalt did kill him.
He did. But if it weren't for Romeo and him getting involved in all this shit,
Yeah.
he would still be alive.
Fair enough.
Like, they would have been able to talk it out, possibly.
I don't know if they could have talked
And not stab each other like stupid little children.
No, I feel like that that was kind of like the entire situation between the two families boiling over.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it came to, and that just made things even worse than they were before, because there's now physical activity between two people, you know.
Now there's blood that's been spilled.
Yeah. And it just made the environment even worse for Romeo and Juliet. So it made it... actually, that probably pushed them to the point where one had to fake a death in order to even be considered a romantic partner. Was that fight, that squabble.
Squabble. So, okay.
The
So I want to know your opinions on this question then. Why did the nurse help Romeo and Juliet so much? Like, if she knew that this wasn't good for them.
Alright, I'm gonna... Alright, so my co-op, she likes playing matchmaker with some of the kids.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the nurse did.
Kind of, yeah.
It's not great, it's fun to watch.
But I think that she cared more for Juliet, though. Like, I don't think it was a game like that to her. Because she was more of a mother than her actual mother.
I feel like it was more pity, because she saw the situation, she knew the families, what they were doing, and I think it was just pity. I don't know that it was any sort of maternal instinct.
Well, I wonder if she thought that it was just inevitable because of the whole forbidden fruit thing,
Probably.
that Juliet was just going to go and get him anyway, so she might as well help
Probably.
to make her happy.
Maybe she had money on it.
Maybe. Her and Friar, whatever his name is.
Lawrence,
yeah. That guy. They were betting together. They were doing something.
Well,
yeah.
they didn't they both help?
He was playing doctor with the nurse.
Ew. I mean, if that's your thing, whatever. But didn't they help Romeo, like, sneak in during the night?
Yeah,
so that they could have sex.
Exactly.
Which they knew was going to lead to sex. Like, obviously that was going to happen. So then, does sex play a bigger role in this play than it does in our real lives today?
Yeah, that's the driving force.
Right.
Literally. Like, they want to drive his force into hers.
Right. Just hormones.
Yeah.
Okay.
All hormones. What, he's like 17?
And she's like 13.
Yeah, 14. Yeah. She's 14. Yeah.
Get that sweet young puss.
Oh my god, ew.
I mean, yeah, no, it's 100% a driving force behind that.
So then, okay, like, were you two very much like, oh my god, sex, when you were, like, early teenager?
I don't think you can help it.
No, like, we've been through this.
It's just hormones.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like you're thinking about it 24/7, but it's like...
No, only like 23.
Yeah, 23/6.
Yeah. Because if it's 24/7, you're going to chafe.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could get, like...
100%.
That's how you get a banana-shaped dick.
You could get UTIs that way, too.
Yeah.
Sucks.
You know, stuffed toys.
Again with the stuffed toys.
He likes toys.
Again with the stuffed toys. Why are you fucking
shoe
toys?
Boxes.
Shoe boxes? That's
DVD cases.
He's just naming shit now to fuck with us.
Just fuck a cantaloupe like a normal person.
No, fuck a peach.
Bean filled Ziploc bags, reheated up and put inside of a pillowcase.
Microwaved chunks of liver.
Anyway.
Oh, God. Alright then.
But yeah, sex is totally the driving force behind Romeo and Juliet getting together in
A
general.
Ziploc bag filled with Vaseline that you put between the mattress and the box spring.
Oh my god, gross. Gross.
That's the worst one.
Ugh. Okay, so if sex was the driving force in Romeo and Juliet, is sex a versus the driving force in life?
Yeah, for a lot of people it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. For a lot of people it is.
There are some people that have this Neanderthal drive to just fuck everything.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of consequences. Just because it feels good.
Well, okay, so then what do you think about people who do have sex, like, all the time?
Get a new hobby.
Okay, so you don't think that's... I'm
Look,
trying to phrase my question.
So, the last 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
it's been, like 2.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
I've been pretty celibate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been ridiculously clarifying.
It's interesting.
Like, I've just like, it's almost kind of removed that drive from me, and it's just been so chill, not worrying about that. Even when I was dating, like, that drive was still really there.
Right.
But now it's just like, meh.
That's interesting.
But it's a shame it took me this long to, like, come to that realization.
I smiled too. I'm a fucking child.
There you go.
Damn it, I had a question.
My clever pun
What
just
was
blew it out of your mind.
It ejaculated out of your brain.
Squirt it right out.
Oh, okay, so this is kind of a little bit down a side street here, but the idea of self-care and learning to love yourself before you can love anybody else.
You just say masturbation.
Well, that's what I'm asking, though. Like, is it, like, do you think that self-care is like a form of masturbation?
Yeah. Anything involving the self can be masturbatory.
Okay.
Anything that's the self and something you enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Nothing else to add to that. That's 100%.
So then what's the difference between self-love in that way versus, like, I don't want to say, like, a chronic masturbator, but what were you going to say, Chris?
Well, because you brought up the point of loving yourself before loving somebody else. And I think that's a crucial thing.
I think it's bullshit.
I think it's important, because if you don't have that love and respect for yourself, how can you transfer that to somebody else? How can you reflect that onto somebody you do care about?
I think it makes you more independent. I'll say that for it. But, like, let's just take Joe and I, for example. I'm not saying I don't love myself. I'm saying I don't like myself a decent amount of the time.
Yeah.
But he likes me, and I like him, and I think he's fine with himself.
That's how you stay together for so long. You just like each other.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
proven.
Like, I'm trying to come up with, like, a way to phrase this.
I understand what you're getting at.
Yeah, like, if like, grains of sand, for example, in, like, a bowl. If I...
I'm on board, okay.
I'm curious to see where this train's going.
Yeah, keep going.
I'm trying, like, I have it in my head, I just can't articulate it. But if that represents love, the more he puts into my bowl makes the less I have to do. So then I can focus on putting love into his, and he focuses on putting love into mine. It's very codependent, but I don't think you necessarily need to love yourself first. I think you should like yourself. Like, I think that you shouldn't hate yourself and then try to be with somebody else, because they can't do all of that for you, because they need to live as their own entity and you need to live as your own entity. I get that. But I don't think you have to, like, love yourself constantly 24/7 in order to love somebody else efficiently.
Not 24/7, but I think to have that healthy sense of self and self-respect is important.
How would you define self-respect?
I fucking hate myself. I don't know. Also, you're also asking somebody that's, like, doesn't really have that sense of self.
That's why I'm asking these questions.
I'm just kind of like this weird shell of a creature.
Shell of a creature
that's able to mimic human things.
Good lord. You sound like a crab.
That's such a specific creature.
That's like when he was going like this, like with his hands. I just thought
crab people.
Yeah, like sea monkeys.
The shrimp.
Whatever.
But no, I get what you're getting at. But yeah. I think maybe that idea of self-love is a little bit more applicable to people of different orientations. Because the first time I encountered that phrase was RuPaul's Drag Race. And I could see how a community like that would really need to embrace that kind of ideal.
Because it's, quote, against the norm to be that way. And
well,
so...
Not so much that, but or to be gay is already have so much against you. To be a cross-dresser like that, that's even more against you.
Right.
And so you're getting negativity on multiple fronts of multiple levels.
But then because of that, I feel like, yes, you have to have that self-love because no one else is going to give that to you.
Right.
Not necessarily that no one else is going to give it to you, but you have to kind of fear for the worst that no one's going to give it to you. So you have to have somebody in your corner, even if it's yourself.
Yeah, you have to learn how to be that kind of self-sufficient. So it's not even so much self-care. It's just, like I said, it's just self-sufficiency to be able to rely on yourself in the event that that's all you got.
I don't think Romeo would be self-sufficient, but I do think Juliet could have been.
She could have been.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, she could have been.
Yeah.
She would have been alive.
The world is a better place because Romeo is dead.
But then don't you think, because Romeo died first.
Yeah.
So then, wasn't Juliet even more stupid? Because she also
Oh
killed
no,
herself.
she was absolutely stupid.
Yeah, very emotionally. I wouldn't say stupid per se, but incredibly emotionally driven.
Stupid.
But women normally are.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Y'all are crazy.
That's not always a bad thing.
no.
Emotions are terrible.
Huh?
Emotions are terrible.
Oh, I thought you said girlfriends. I was like, should you really be saying that now? Like,
No.
Are you
No.
sure?
Juliet was definitely
mine's
overly
wonderful.
emotionally driven. That
Yeah,
it was just her cuppeth overfilled.
Right, because she woke up from an exceptionally long nap, and her dipshit boyfriend just was fucking dead next to her.
Right. So like the love of
It's
your
a
life
lot.
that you had planned to be with forever.
Or the next week.
In
Yeah.
their heads though. In their heads.
Yeah.
Planned to be with forever is now dead, and you basically held him as he died.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna be a bit emotional.
Okay, so with that in mind, do you think that if they were both to survive, would they have continued on with the relationship?
No, I think Casey's spot on in saying they would have lasted another week, and then that would have been it.
I said that.
Did you say that? I'm sorry.
I said that.
I'm sorry.
Give me that credit. I'll take that credit.
Okay, well, whatever.
It me.
Well, this kind of brings up my biggest point, and what I helped my sister write an entire paper for that got it saved by her teacher as an example.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know, right? I got a high school paper saved as an example for my sister.
Nice.
But the lack of communication is the driving force behind their failure in the relationship. So I feel like that's like the message at the end of the story.
But again, it wasn't necessarily their fault for that lack of communication. Romeo never got that letter explaining the plan.
Yeah, because he relied on someone else to do the communicating for him.
Right.
There could have been a more efficient way of doing something.
Oh, absolutely, there could have been a more efficient way.
Yeah, like let's just say if we were to translate it into modern terms with cell phones, you can't exactly read behind a person's emotion through a text message.
That's gotten me into a lot of trouble, actually.
Yeah, so it's that inability to properly express yourself through written word that leads to a miscommunication of how one might feel through something. So even if she got the letter, it might not have translated properly.
Well, even, like, I'll give you a small example. Mini side street. Yesterday, I was supposed to go over to Joe's after work, and I told him I was only working lunch, so I'd probably be home by 4. I got home at, like, 2:30. we were, quote, busy, but I was training, so I wasn't really doing anything. And so I texted him. I said, I'm home. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to school. And then he texted me when he got home. And then I started doing stuff around the house, and time got away from me. I was really productive, which was kind of nice. Yeah.
I'm proud.
Thank you. And next thing I know, like, I'm having dinner, and then it's like 8:30, and he texted me, and he was like, hey, you never came over today. And I was like, well, you never said, hey, come over. And he said, well, you never said, hey, can I come over? And then it was just like this lack of communication.
Who's on first?
And he was like, you don't need an invitation to come over. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. But like, I didn't know if you were doing homework and needed some time or, whatever. And we were both kind of like, well, it's neither one of our faults. It's just, that's what happened.
I still like that invitation though. Like I'm like a vampire. Like I
Yeah.
want to know that I have the okay to come inside
Mhm.
because I feel awkward otherwise.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but I feel like that's the telling, like that's the truth at the end of the story, is that without that level of communication between a couple, that a relationship is doomed to fail.
That's interesting that you think communication is this driving theme for the play.
Communication's huge.
It is, but most people will think Romeo and Juliet and connect it with something about love and make a theme about love. So I like that you say your bit on communication, because honestly, I'd never thought of that.
Yeah,
so much would have been solved.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if that letter got from point A to point B.
And it all starts because the two families just refuse to properly communicate.
That's true. And I'm really just sick and tired of, in our society, how when people don't know how to argue eloquently,
Yeah.
and their version is to scream in your face and then not accept anything you say. Like, in order to have an intelligent conversation, even if you're at opposing forces, like, it's common courtesy to hear the other person out and to try to understand their view so that you can become a more open person, therefore a nicer, kinder, better person.
Welcome to politics.
Yeah, so many people don't know how to do it. So yeah, that goes back to communication.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to see the other person's point of view.
Yeah. Shit. Even, what the fuck are their names? The guy who died and, the guy who stabbed him?
Tybalt and
Yeah, those guys.
Those guys.
If they just, put their swords away and just talked for a minute.
Right.
Or take out their other swords.
And just tallywhack a bit and then talk.
I hear that's spawn building.
But people need to feel like they are on top. They need to feel empowered. So they need to feel like they are the ones calling the shots. And in order to do that, you can't just sit back pretty and listen. But that's what you really need to do, is to listen to each other.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Funny.
I'm not 100% sure on this, but how many moments does Romeo get where he's just talking to himself?
He doesn't have any, big soliloquies, does he?
I don't think he does. I think they're all given to Juliet.
Yeah.
And she's the one verbally talking things out and thinking things
Right.
through, while Romeo is more
Passion.
action.
Yeah.
He's just
But
doing things.
that's the nature of men and women.
He's
Yeah,
passion, she's thought.
That's actually really interesting. I never realized that until right now.
See, this is why we love English, everybody. The literature.
It's fine.
It's wonderful. I read Romeo and Juliet when I was in, 10th grade, and now we're talking about it, and I'm still having thoughts that I haven't had before. I love that. I love literature.
I appreciate that the story has set up a trusted framework for future stories to follow, but I hate the story overall. I hate Romeo and Juliet.
Do you think if they were older and over a bigger period of time, it would be better?
Maybe.
Okay.
Oh, I had a quick side street. So, when I took a Shakespeare class in high school, we watched the, I still don't know if it's the 70s or the 80s version.
Leonardo DiCaprio version?
No,
No,
that's
no.
garbage.
I liked it.
With Olivia Hussey and...
Yeah, the guy who looks like Zac Efron.
He does a little, now that I think about it. Oh, 68, wow.
Wow, that's old.
Holy shit.
That's 52 years old.
So, there's a little bit of nudity in it, because it shows them sleeping together.
Yeah.
Right.
And my professor takes his clipboard and just covers Juliet's tits in a high school
funny.
class.
That bothers me, though, because
It was so funny.
you shouldn't be ashamed of it. There's such an issue with bodies in general.
He really does look like Zac Efron.
I feel like the problem with that though is that she was actually underage.
Yeah. Olivia Hussey was quite young.
Okay, well then that's different.
Yeah, so I'm fine with that covering it up.
Yeah.
Since she is underage. If it was
Right.
anybody else, who fucking cares?
Well, it was not so underage that it could have been done.
What she was like 17 or something like that,
Right.
which is still illegal.
Yeah, but
Depends
this
on where
was
you
also
are.
in, 60
68.
something? Yeah.
Yeah, 68.
Legal age depends on where you are. It's not 18 across the board.
I still,
Really?
Some states it's different.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Some states it ranges from 16 to 18. I think there's some that are extreme as 15.
Yeah.
There's no
a lot of
way.
southern states.
There's no way a 15-year-old would be able...
More out west, I believe. I think Oregon. I want to say.
That kind of makes sense.
I forget.
I'll never hear anything about Oregon.
I forgot that was a state.
No, not Oregon. What am I saying?
I thought it was just
Wow.
California and Washington.
Oklahoma.
Fucking Montana.
Montana.
I think maybe
Who
Montana.
the fuck goes to Montana?
There's the only people that want to fuck sheep and 15-year-olds.
Sheep are soft.
Are you sure you're not wearing any zippers? Because they scare the sheep away.
Do they now?
They get caught in the wool. You're in for a ride.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to have flashbacks of Black Sheep. That movie.
You love it.
Okay, so with Romeo and Juliet, I don't think it's Shakespeare's best. We have talked about Shakespeare's, quote, best
Did
with things.
Yeah.
Well, we talked
kind
about our
of.
favorites.
Yeah.
When we
and
did Hamlet. Mm-hmm.
And the Star Wars is a classic episode.
Yeah.
We covered it a little bit too.
Yeah, so it's not his best, but you learn a shit ton from it.
Yeah.
One, about communication, and a lot about love. Like, most people will say that they weren't in love. They were just two horny kids. But that's kind of where I got the idea of, like, these different pieces, these different levels of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that to be very interesting, very romantic, and how it's all like puzzle pieces. You know, no one has the same one.
Yeah.
So I think it's sweet.
If nothing else, it's a blueprint on how not to do a relationship.
Yeah.
And that's important. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, after this conversation, I feel better about Romeo and Juliet. I came into this absolutely fucking hating it. Now I'm like, it's okay.
I'm glad I could help.
Nah, I still hate it.
It was just talking. I'm not gonna read it again.
I know, I wouldn't either, unless I had to.
Yeah, I mean,
his tragedies aren't great rereads. His comedies are.
Comedies are, and his tragic comedies are great.
Yeah.
Rereads. If you read this more like a comedy, it's great.
I'm not a big fan of comedies. I like tragedies.
Which works out well because you're not funny.
Ooh, all right. Anyway, I am.
That's a tally for something.
Ooh,
I am a firm believer that tragedy, you need comedy. So there's no perfect tragedy without some snippet of comedy.
So where was the comedy in Romeo and Juliet?
the end.
Besides that,
You literally fucking took the words out of my mouth. I feel like it's just seeing how ridiculous. It's almost like looking back on your own teenage years. You're looking back at how ridiculous teenagers are acting.
I don't think that's it though, because there has to be at least something in the play.
It's like
that
situational.
Is supposed to be funny, right?
Like situational irony.
Yeah.
I still don't.
No, it's your favorite satire.
Yeah,
it's dramatic irony. First of all,
let's just say Shakespeare wrote the first satire. Boom, hot takes with Struggle City Gang. Shakespeare wrote the first satire.
He didn't, but sure.
Yeah, I know. It was the Bible. Anyway.
That was awesome. That was really funny. But yeah, okay. So, any other things that we wanted to touch on? I did have something on Lady Capulet here.
I mean, if you want to go into that, I don't have any notes on it.
Yeah.
I didn't really have anything either.
She was kind of like a non-entity, I feel.
Yeah.
She just existed. The nurse had a bigger role than she did, and
well, right, but that's kind of how it was. Like mothers weren't the way that they are now. She didn't learn basically anything from her mother, and she didn't see love from her parents. You know, like they didn't model it.
No, because they're too busy with their stupid feud.
Right. So then, do you think maybe it's partially Lady Capulet's fault that Juliet has no idea what love is?
It is literally everybody's fault.
So then, do you think it's the parents' responsibility to either warn them, or I obviously don't want to say show them what love is, but to kind of give them examples of what they should be looking for in potential people that they date?
Not even that, but they just need to set better examples as human beings.
That's fair.
To not be petty fucking assholes.
Right.
Yeah.
About nothing.
Yeah. The idea of the modern mother didn't really come around until like the 90s.
No.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, this is right on par with the early 1900s as well. So,
which is interesting.
Not much has changed.
I'd say even maybe the 80s it started.
Late 80s into the 90s.
Well, did you guys ever get dating advice from your parents?
I had a bag of condoms thrown on my bed, and then that was it.
By both parents? Do you remember who did it?
No, it was just there. I came home one day and it was just there.
That's better advice than I got.
Literally.
What advice did you get?
My dad told me to let her finish first.
That's good advice.
Smart man.
And then he patted me on the back, and then we mowed a couple lawns.
Now, by mowed a couple lawns.
So your dad gave you advice. Did your mom give you advice?
No, she said that she was always there to talk, which I felt was better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got advice from my dad when I was like 13. I was going on my first date.
Good old Bernie.
And good old Bernie, yeah. But his advice was good. It was don't kiss on a first date. That's the one thing that stood out to me.
That's solid advice.
Yeah. And it's not big or anything, but like that stood out to me. I never got any dating advice like that from my mom, but whenever I want to bitch about Joe, because sometimes that happens, 8.5 years,
yeah,
like that's gonna
perfect.
happen, right?
I feel
she's right there to hear me, so she's good at listening. Again, women are good at listening and trying to put things together to figure it out with you, whereas men are like, okay, here's the issue, here's the solution, here's advice. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Men are problem solvers.
Never got that.
No? Wait, which part of it?
Both.
All of it. The whole thing.
An ear was never offered, advice was never given.
Hey man, my ear's always here.
No, I know, but like during
Which is all of my hearing, by the way, because I only have one. And yes, I interrupted you on purpose. How's it feel?
It's fine.
But,
But like during the formulative years, I never got that.
You should have.
It's neither here nor there, and the moment's long past.
Yeah, fair. So then, what do you think about the term star-crossed lovers?
Silly.
Okay.
It's like sci-fi bullshit.
Dave?
define the term, please.
You said that like a fucking spelling bee.
Can you use it in a sentence?
When people think of Romeo and Juliet, they'll think of star-crossed lovers.
The fuck does that mean?
Because isn't that where the term was coined?
Well, he does describe her as a star.
Does he?
Well, I think it's more in the ideas of astrology, because aren't there like compatible and non-compatible signs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
And he just meant it like with the families?
Most likely, yeah.
I mean, there's a
Okay.
Capricorn somewhere, right?
In what, astrology?
No, in the story.
There's a Capulet.
Anyway, yeah, star-crossed lovers. I don't know.
Oh my god, that was really funny.
I know.
Yeah, because I like when you hear something like that, it's automatically romantic. Like your star-crossed lovers, like that kind of goes back into the idea of fate. So then, based on your beliefs, do you think fate is real? Do you believe in fate?
No.
Yes, Casey.
So I looked it up,
Okay.
and it is astrological in origin,
Look at you.
and best known from Romeo and Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
STARCROSSEED?
You forgot the hyphen, you dumb cunt.
Lovers. LOVERS.
This is not a spelling bee.
No, but
Why are we spelling?
because I felt it completed the joke. I'm sorry.
God.
Because he gave me the definition.
So, fate, then.
Absolutely not. I do not believe in fate.
No.
That's interesting. Okay.
No fate, but what will you make? Is that the quote? Yeah. From Terminator.
But what if... That's from Terminator?
Yeah.
Oh. But what if everything that you determine your life is going to be is actually what your fate was?
There's no way to tell
No.
one way or the other.
Yeah. It's like
That's where religion comes in.
yeah, like
in my opinion.
when I die, I'm not going to get to see the book that was dictating all this.
Unfortunately.
I'm just going to rot in the ground.
We're not magicians.
I mean, we all have very different beliefs when it comes to this stuff, so it's interesting to see.
Don't bring up the magicians.
I was going to say something else. Oh, so then, okay, things happening for a reason. You don't think that's legit? Like everything happens for a reason?
I don't want to think that.
Okay.
But I've seen weird things and weird occurrences that I don't know how to explain, but I don't want to chalk them up to circumstance.
Right.
So it's a gray area.
What about you?
In the context of this story, no.
Yeah, that's a good point. We should relate it to the play.
Yeah, no, fate in this I feel like has zero effect on it.
Right.
Whether or not it was put into play by a higher power or Romeo's dick. You know, like
not unless it's like Midsummer's Night Dream, where there's forces at play.
Yeah.
Where you know that that these are characters that are just being toyed with and puppeted.
Okay.
No.
So, let me answer my question. Wait, what? So, okay, but didn't their deaths bring the families together to end the feud?
Not necessarily.
I thought it did. I thought the two of them were like, okay, we shouldn't have this big fight between our families anymore because our children are now dead. And it was very detrimental.
If anything, it was a temporary truce.
Yeah, because we don't see beyond that. So we don't know if... Because, yeah, they both died, but also Tybalt was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, like, there's still that bad blood going on.
Right.
There is, but if the both of them... Like, if both heads of the families say, okay, let's end this feud, I think that's what happened.
But that's just the heads. I'm sure there are those within the family that are salty as fuck.
Sure, and I get that, but at the same time, it's not like they're at war with each other. Like, things are much better.
Sure.
So it can be said that their deaths led to this break of, help me.
Feud?
Yes.
It led to a breath of fresh air in their argument.
Sure.
Yeah, it gave them a new reason to start the feud anew.
Alright, on that same subject, I feel like if they didn't do a compact suicide, that there could have possibly have been a long-term solution to the feud.
I don't think so, because it was already such a long-term thing, and the only thing that was going to, wake them from wherever their fucking minds were at would be the death of their kids.
Maybe.
At the same time, Juliet was also part of an arranged marriage, so who's to say that Romeo couldn't have been part of an arranged marriage with Juliet to stop the fighting?
Right.
But that wouldn't have made them stop. Like, if I had a daughter and you had a son and we hated each other for some fucking reason, I would not try to end the feud by sending my daughter to your son.
It's probably because of your glasses.
What?
Well, that way you'd have mutual hostages.
Well, exactly, though. That's the thing. But if my daughter fell in love with your son, and then they couldn't deal with this shit anymore, and they killed each other, I would go to you and be like, my daughter is dead because of all of this shit. Your son is dead because of all of this shit. We need to end this, otherwise their deaths would have been for nothing.
No, it would just piss me off even more.
I'd blame you and just eradicate the whole family.
Okay, well, I think...
But on that same note,
yeah.
if Romeo and Juliet were to get married, it would tie family interests together. So, money would be together.
Right, but then the
business
families
would be together.
The families would still try to outshine the other instead of being one as a unit.
Yeah, but now Romeo and Juliet control everything because they're the heirs or whatever.
The consequences control everything, which is a lesson in life as well.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, I think I'm over it.
That's how I feel about Romeo and Juliet too. I was okay with it about 10 minutes ago, and now I hate it.
Damn, overstayed my welcome.
Fixed it.
Fuck Romeo and Juliet.
Anyway, yeah, that's our thoughts on R&J.
Let us know your opinions down in the comment.
Yeah. Let us know if you have any questions about Romeo and Juliet, because it is confusing, especially if you're in school studying it and you have no idea what the fuck is going on. We're here to help.
I'll redirect you to Spark Notes.
I'll try to help.
That's what I used to prepare for this.
There you go.
But yeah.
So
like,
Dave,
subscribe.
outro's on you. Mm-hmm.
Like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. YouTube, and that's where this is going, so you'll be here anyway.
Yeah.
Hit that bell notification button over there right next to the word subscribe. So you'll get notified of whenever we post another piece of shit episode. Yeah, any questions, I'll be posting all the questions that we answered and some of the other ones we didn't go over down in the description below.
I think we went over all of them.
We missed one or two, I think.
That's good.
But regardless, they'll all be down there. So if you want to throw in your 2 cents, go for it. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, wait, hang on. I remember the comedy part in Romeo and Juliet was the whole I bite my thumb at you.
See you later.